Brought to you by GTA, your island, your network.
To pay or not to pay? That was the question. Bill 350, a bill Senator Dennis Rodriguez says would right a past wrong by paying Cocoa Recycling $590,000 a year for the next 10 years. The money would come from Guam EPA's Revolving Recycling Fund, and Rodriguez said it would pay Cocoa Recycling back for work it did 17 years ago. Was there a valid contract for Cocoa to pick up some 25,000 metric tons of metallic waste in 2001? Why didn't the company go the normal route and sue the government for what they say they're owed? So many questions.
The initial statement from the Attorney General's office was that their opinion is that this piece of legislation is inorganic and unconstitutional.
Panelists from the AG's office brought before senators even questioned the bill's validity, to the embarrassment of Rodriguez and Senator Mike St. Nicholas, who chaired the proceedings.
We think is outside the zone of safety when it comes to a separation of powers.
When it became clear the panelists' answers weren't always going to make Bill 350 look so good, St. Nicholas started to try and limit what could be asked and answered on the session floor, even telling panelists not to answer certain questions asked by his colleagues. Senator Talina Nelson tried to ask Deputy AG Ken Orcutt if the AG's office thought Cocoa Recycling had a valid license agreement.
Well, the license agreement may not be valid. We've never looked into that question. But at the time that this lease or license
just a point of order, Mr. Orcutt. I believe the question was, what is the process by which a claim can be properly filed?
Mr. Chair, I respect the road the path that he's taking. He's bringing a lot of things into the light for the public. So if you would allow him to continue.
The concern is that we're not here to. We can have lawyers debating each other all day as to what their interpretations are. I think we need to be very specific as to the questions. So, Mr. Orcutt, if you can stay focused on the initial question.
There was two things, Mr. Chair, that he was bringing up. Please allow him to speak.
Orcutt went on to say the proper channel for Cocoa Recycling to get paid the $7.5 million they say they're owed would be to file a claim and go to court. But answers, and even questions, were very hard to come by. Acting Speaker Therese Terlahi protesting St. Nicholas's attempts to control what panelists could and couldn't say.
I would ask that we just be allowed to ask them the questions, they be allowed to answer without your directing them how to answer.
Terlahi had been trying to ask GIPA head Walter Leon Guerrero if paying Cocoa $590,000 a year for 10 years would hamper GIPA's ability to protect our paradise, since the money would come from GIPA's Revolving Recycling Fund.
Removing money from the fund does not enable us to expend it on our draft rules and regs.
The whole point of this is to get information. You're going to ask us to vote on a bill, and then you're going to restrict us from getting the information. I just say let it flow freely. I mean, why such efforts to censor what they can or cannot say?
First of all, Madam Speaker, there's no censorship.
And I think you need to. Maybe you need a motion in order to start limiting the testimony.
There's no censorship in this committee of the whole.
Later in the evening, St. Nicholas asked his colleagues to add amendments to Bill 350, and when Terlahi objected, the gavel came down again.
It's very hard to pass any amendment right now because we only have 8 people here, and it's very clear where their allegiances are lying. But I would like to ask that...
Acting Speaker, you will refrain from making comments about our colleagues in such a manner.
Mr. Chair, you have cut me off from asking questions of the panel. You've cut me off from the middle of my questions when they were here. Acting Speaker, you have the floor with respect to amendment on 350. You will not recess us till the rest of the members are here, so...
Terlahi said if Cocoa had filed a claim and gone to court, legislative relief could be a solution to remedy the issue. Since that hasn't been done, Terlahi said senators shouldn't be afraid to play the Grinch if it means saving Gov Guam $7.5 million.
And I know it's Christmas time, but I don't see any reason why we are going to play Santa Claus with the people's money.
For Guam's News Network, Chris Barnett reports.
Brought to you by GTA, your island, your network.